Does the world exist only as far as my eyes can behold? Is it, like, limited to where my feet can touch? Sudarshan Kumar famously said, no. The world we live in is immensely vast. It is not possible to either see or visit it all. That quote really makes you think, doesn't it? Because if we can't physically explore every corner, how do we begin to grasp, the sheer vastness of our planet? Well, probably the most effective tool we have for learning about our world, for capturing its scale, its detail, it's the map. And here's the core idea we're really digging into today. Every map tells a story. But, and this is key, to truly understand that story, you need to know its language.
Exactly. And that language, it's incredibly rich. It kind of shifts depending on the purpose. You see broad types like physical maps, political maps, maybe thematic maps focusing on one specific thing. But today, we're zooming right in on a really foundational type, topographical maps. The whole science of making these maps is called cartography. And the people who do it are cartographers. Here in India, this really important work is done by the Survey of India. That's a government organization under the Ministry of Science and Technology.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to really get comfortable with how geographical features are shown and how we study them on these maps. Because obviously you can't draw things in their actual shape and size on paper. So we rely on, three main things, these sort of foundational elements of the map's language: colors, scale, and conventional symbols. Okay, let's unpack this language, starting right at the beginning. What exactly is a topographical map? What makes it different?
Okay, so at its heart, a topographical map is a really detailed picture. It shows both the physical landscape and the man-made stuff in a specific, usually smaller area. They're large-scale maps. That means they show a lot of detail for, not a huge piece of ground. And one thing you'll almost always see are contour lines. These are, they're imaginary lines drawn on the map. They connect points that are all at the exact same elevation, the same height above mean sea level.
Ah, okay. So these invisible lines are somehow painting a picture of the land's shape, like hills and valleys.
Precisely. The pattern, how close together or far apart they are, that tells you the relief, the surface pattern of the land. Closed lines, that means deep terrain, like a mountainside. Widely spaced lines suggest flatter ground, gentler slopes. It's like reading the landscape without being there. And you'll typically see these lines and their height numbers shown in brown.
Okay, brown for contours. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The colors. Maps aren't just, colored in randomly to look nice. Their colors are a massive part of this universal language. They mean specific things, right?
Absolutely. Think of it like a global shorthand. These universally accepted colors make reading a map so much easier. It doesn't matter where you are. Each color instantly signals a type of feature. It's really quite clever. So, for instance, BLUE, that's always water. Perennial rivers, canals, wells, tanks, springs, seas, oceans, all blue. And sometimes the shade matters too. Deeper blue often means deeper water. Lighter blue, shallower areas.
Makes sense. Water X blue. What's next?
Then you've got green. Green is vegetation. Forests, grasslands, trees, shrubs, orchards, anything growing. And again, sometimes a deeper green might suggest, a really dense forest.
Okay, blue for water, green for plants.
Brown is next. That's mostly about elevation and dry land. Mountain ranges, highlands, big sandy dunes, stony wastelands. Higher mountains might get a deeper brown color, and like we said, those important contour lines and their numbers. Also brown. It ties height directly to the color.
Got it. Brown for height and dry bits.
Yellow usually points to agriculture. Cultivated fields, basically, where people are growing things.
All right.
Red tends to be for man-made features, settlements, houses, buildings, roads and tracks too. Human infrastructure. Oh, and also the map's grid lines and their numbering are often in red.
Okay, red for human stuff.
Bileos is a busy one. It's used for lines of latitude and longitude, names on the map, boundaries, specific height points. Also, railway lines, telephone lines, embankments, broken ground, dry streams, some tanks and canals. Even contours sometimes can be black.
Wow, black does a lot.
It does. And finally, white usually just means barren land, empty patches. What's really cool here is how standardized this is. This universal color code just simplifies map reading for anyone, anywhere. It's a silent language.
That really is a powerful idea, a silent global language. Okay, so colors show us what's there. Water, trees, buildings. Contours show the shape. But how does a map take, say, a whole country and shrink it onto a piece of paper, but still let us figure out real distances? How does it capture the size? That brings us to the next big piece of the language: Scale.
Scale, yes, absolutely fundamental. Scale is just the ratio. It's the relationship between a distance you measure on the map and what that distance actually is on the ground. It's what lets you
Yeah.
figure out real distances and dimensions
Yeah.
from the map. And there are, broadly, three ways scale is shown.
Okay. What are they?
The simplest, probably the Statement scale. Yeah. This is where it's just written out in words like 1 centimeter represents 50 kilometers or, 1 centimeter, 50 kilometers.
Yeah.
Super straightforward, tells you directly. But it is tied to specific units.
Right. Like using centimeters and kilometers.
Exactly. Then you have the linear scale. That's the one that looks like a little ruler printed on the map. It's a graduated line, often with main divisions, the primary scale, and then smaller subdivisions, the secondary scale, for finer measurements. What's great about this one is it helps you measure distance directly on the map. You can just use a ruler or paper against it. Very practical.
Okay, that sounds useful. The little ruler thing.
And the third type, which is maybe the most universal, is the representative fraction, or RF. This is shown as a ratio, like 1.100 1,000,000, or sometimes written as a fraction, 1 over 100,000. What it means is that 1 unit of distance on the map equals 100,000 of the same unit on the ground. So 1 centimeter on the map is 100,000 centimeters, which is 1 kilometer on the ground. Or 1 inch is 100,000 inches. This one is often called the universal scale.
That's interesting. Why is the representative fraction called the universal scale? It sounds like you still need to know the units you're starting with, right?
Good question. The key thing is that the RF itself is unit-free. That ratio, 1 to 100,000, works whatever units you choose to use, as long as you use the same unit on both sides. So someone using the metric system understands it just as well as someone using imperial units. 1 inch represents 100,000 inches, 1 centimeter represents 100,000 centimeters. That lack of built-in units makes the ratio itself universal, adaptable to any measurement system. That's its real power.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the ratio itself that's universal. Got it. So we understand the different types of scale now, but how do we, actually use it? If I have a map in front of me, how do I measure the distance between 2 points? What tools can you use?
Right, the practical part. For measuring straight distances, say between 2 towns, the easiest way is often just a straight edge of a piece of paper. You line up the edge, make little marks on the paper at your start and end points on the map. Then you just take that paper edge and place it against the linear scale bar on the map to read the distance. Simple.
Okay, piece of paper.
Or you could use a divider. That tool that looks like a compass but has 2 points.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You just set the 2 points of the divider on your start and end locations on the map. Then, without changing the divider spread, you move it to the linear scale and read off the distance. Works great for straight lines, especially shorter ones.
Okay, paper or divider for straight lines. But what about things like rivers or windy roads? They're never straight.
Good point. For those curvy or irregular lines, you need a different technique. A really common one uses, believe it or not, a piece of thread.
Thread, really?
Yeah. You put a little knot or a dot on the thread, place that at your starting point on the map feature, like the beginning of the river bend. Then you carefully lay the thread along the exact curves of the river or road, tracing its path accurately. Once you reach the end point, you mark that thread there, straighten the whole measured length of thread out, and then measure that length against the linear scale.
Huh. That's clever. Low-tech, but effective.
It really is. Or, if you want something a bit more purpose-built, there's an instrument called an opposometer. It sounds fancy, but it's basically a little gadget with a wheel on one end and a dial. You zero the dial, then roll the little wheel along the curved line on your map. The dial keeps track and tells you the distance you've traced. Pretty neat for complex, zigzaggy routes.
An opposometer. Okay, I'll have to look that up. So we've got colors, contours, scale, ways to measure. What's the last piece of this map language? Right. Little pictures. Conventional symbols.
Exactly. Conventional signs and symbols. So since you can't possibly draw every single feature, every tree, every house in its actual shape or size on a map, we need symbols. These are like the map's vocabulary. They're widely adopted, often universally understood signs, specific colors, sometimes letters or abbreviations that represent real-world features. Using these standard symbols makes map reading much easier and more consistent no matter who made the map. The Survey of India, for example, uses a very specific set of these.
So everyone agrees on what, say, a little triangle symbol means.
Pretty much, especially within a country's mapping agency's standards. And crucially, every proper map has a legend or a key, usually in a corner box. This is absolutely vital. It's your dictionary for that map. It lists all the symbols, shapes, lines, and colors used on that specific map and tells you exactly what they represent.
Right. Always check the legend.
Always. Think of it as the Rosetta Stone for that map. It unlocks everything else. It's all about having this standardized visual language so anyone can pick up the map and understand what's being shown.
Can you give us a few examples of common symbols we might see?
Sure. On topographical maps, you'll often see symbols for railway lines. There might be different line styles for broad gauge versus meter gauge, and a specific little building symbol for a railway station. Tells you about transport.
Okay.
For roads, you'll usually see distinctions between metalled roads, meaning paved, and unmetalled roads, which are like dirt tracks.
Yeah.
Huge difference for travel. Boundaries are shown with different kinds of dashed or dotted lines. Maybe a thick one for an international border, a different pattern for a state boundary, another for a district. Shows political or administrative divisions.
Makes sense.
Water bodies have specific symbols too. A line for a river, maybe blue if it's perennial, black dashes if it's dry sometimes. A symbol for, well, a tank, which is often a man-made pond or reservoir. A canal, a bridge, crossing a river.
Lots for water.
Yeah, water's important. Then you have things like public services, often abbreviations like PO for post office, PS for police station, little indicators of service.
Useful stuff.
Definitely. You'll see symbols for settlements, maybe different ones for size or type, and perhaps even one for a graveyard. Natural features like trees might be little green tufts, maybe clumps for forest. Grass might have its own symbol. And often, religious sites get specific symbols, maybe a little icon for a temple, a cross for a church, a crescent for a mosque. Sometimes a symbol for a chhatri, which is like a memorial dome. Adds cultural detail.
Wow. It really is a whole vocabulary laid out visually. What an incredible deep dive. We've really unpacked how maps function as these amazing stories, haven't we? We've seen how their language uses those universally understood colors, the precision of scale to handle vast distances, and this whole dictionary of conventional symbols. It's so clear now that a topographical map isn't just a picture. It's this detailed, scaled representation of both the physical world and our impact on it, all in one place.
Indeed. It's often said maps can silently convey more than 1,000 words, and I think that's true. There's such an effective way to learn about this huge, complex world, especially the parts we can't easily see or visit ourselves. They really are a window.
So thinking about that idea that every map tells a story, how might you, listening now, start to look at maps differently? Maybe not just as tools to get from A to B, but as these incredibly dense narratives just waiting for you to read them? What untold stories might you uncover next time you look closely at a map, now that you have a better feel for the language? Perhaps you'll see more than just lines and colors. Maybe you'll glimpse the history, the geology, the life of that place, all encoded right there on the page.